Hello, it's Kurt Jackson again, your certified mortgage planner here in Liberty, Missouri. And today we're going to go ahead and piggyback off our previous video that addressed the question, should I want to pay off my house early? If you haven't watched that video yet, you really should go back and watch it. It's right above this video on our website. It's just a little bit more than 9 minutes, and it really does a pretty good job of giving the background of why we focus so much on paying off our mortgage and some of the reasons why maybe you shouldn't pay off your mortgage. Today's video, we wanted to go a little deeper and give you some examples of why you may or you may not want to pay off your house early by paying extra on your principal. We're going to compare the traditional model of paying down your principal as fast as you can with any extra cash, and then what we call the cash flow model, where we take those extra dollars, that extra cash flow, used to pay down the principal and invest them instead. We're going to share with you a couple extremes first. The first one will be a high income earner with a $400,000 house, a $320,000 loan. We're going to assume a 41% marginal tax bracket, a 6.25% 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and 3% appreciation on the house annually. Our comparison for all of these will be taking our after-tax savings and applying it to the principal reduction in the traditional model, and taking our after-tax savings and investing it. We did it this way so it wouldn't take any extra dollars out of a budget to accomplish this. So we're going to use all the tax savings. And in this example, we're going to use another extreme and take the 30-year return on the stock market of about 10%. So in essence, in this first example, we're paying 6 1/4 on our mortgage. We're in the 41% tax bracket. The investment's earning an assumed 10% return, and we're going to also assume that the investment grows tax-free until the end. But keep in mind that taxes at that time would be taxed as, unless something changes, as long-term capital gains, which currently have a much more favorable tax rate. Now, folks, I'm not a tax advisor. Always consult your tax advisor. But we wanted to try to bring that in here and give you an example in these examples. So as you can see on the screen, the traditional model has their house paid off in 226 months. And if they invested at that point in time, their principal and interest payment for the remaining 114 months, they would have had $482,459 in their investment account. A nice chunk of change. Their home's going to be worth basically $908,000 at the 3% appreciation, and there would be no mortgage because the house would have been paid off. They would have saved approximately $86,000 in taxes. Not too bad, right? You know, if that's how it ended up after 30 years, most people would be pretty satisfied with that. And that's part of the problem is, well, okay, that's okay. And we don't seem to look at anything else. And all we're saying is maybe we should. So what we've done is we've compared that to our cash flow management model. And in this one, we're going to take the tax savings and invest it each month at an assumed 10% return. In this model, we have enough money to pay off the mortgage in 172 months, which is really a full 54 months, 4.5 years sooner than the traditional model. And at the end of 30 years, we have an investment account with a balance of $1.29 million. That's $811,000 more than the traditional model. The house still has no mortgage, and the house value is exactly the same, $907,000, almost $908,000. Now the tax savings going this way was about $159,000 or $73,000 more than the traditional model. Now that's amazing, isn't it? And I know this is an extreme example, but it's for those people, those higher net worth, higher income people. But we want to let you know that it's one that's not out of the realm of possibilities. But you're skeptical, right? All right, that's fine. We've got other examples we want to share with you today. Here's another one to think about. This is going to be more normal for most folks. So let's assume a $250,000 house, a $200,000 mortgage, 30-year fixed at 6 1/4, and the investment's earning 6 1/4. So we're paying 6 1/4, we're earning 6 1/4. The traditional model is still using the tax savings to apply to principal, and the cash flow management model is investing that tax savings, just like in the first example. Well, in this one, the traditional model pays off the house in 245 months by investing the principal, the extra principal. If at that point in time, if we invested that extra principal, or our principal and interest payment of $1,231.43 for the remaining 116 months, 115 months that ends that 30-year period, with $193,261 in the investment account. You'd have a house worth about $607,000, and your total tax savings is about 45 grand. Not bad. Well, if we look at the cash flow model, it pays the house off 20 months earlier at 225 months, and the investment account after 30 years ends up $73,351 higher at a total of $265,612. The house is worth the same. The tax savings with this way is $75,428 or $30,139 higher than the traditional model. So when the investment return is the same as the mortgage interest rate, the benefits are still in favor of the cash flow model. Well, what if the return's 1% lower at 5 1/4? Well, that would certainly sway the numbers toward the traditional model, right? I mean, you can't borrow at 6 1/4 and invest it at a lower 5 1/4 and come out ahead, can you? Well, let's see. In this model, in this example, the house would pay off at 245 months versus 235 months with the traditional cash flow model, which is still 10 months earlier. The investment after 30 years is $183,500 versus $214,500. Well, that's $31,000 still in favor of the cash flow model, and the tax savings don't change. So earning 1% less than the mortgage rate favors the cash flow model, right? So think about that, folks. You are earning 1% less than what you're paying, and it still comes out ahead. In fact, we had to go to 2% less just to have them break out even. If you have an investment return of 4 1/4 versus a 6 1/4 mortgage, it's almost a dead heat. So don't get caught up in the inaccurate belief that you have to earn more than you are paying to come out ahead. When you have the power of compounding interest working for you, we talked about that in the last video, it's possible to come out ahead over time even when you're earning less than you're paying. That's amazing, isn't it? I bet you didn't know that. Many financial professionals don't know that either, or didn't realize that. The last example that we want to use is to take the tax bracket down to 15%. It has the investment earning the same 6 1/4 that the mortgage has. So in this example, the house wouldn't pay off until 288 months in the traditional model versus 279 months under the cash flow model. That's a 9-month savings. The investment count's still 21 grand higher under the new model, and the tax savings still $9,300 more. Right? So the moral here is that the traditional model that almost everybody follows doesn't necessarily deliver the best results. If in every one of our scenarios, the new cash flow model outperformed the traditional model, and even in the one where the investment return was 2% lower, you break even, but you would have had access to that money along the way if something bad happened. If you would have had a disability, a job loss, divorce, something along those lines, you would have had access to that money. You would have been able to take advantage of those opportunities. That's the liquidity factor that we discussed earlier in our earlier video. What we're trying to hope to get a point across here is that the most important aspect of this model is the liquidity. You've got cash when you need it. If you're disabled, a job loss, divorce, death of a spouse. All times that if that was going on in your life and the money was in your house, you likely would not be able to access it when you need it the most. So keep that in mind, folks, that the traditional thinking is not necessarily the best way to go. This is another way of looking at things, and we feel that it's a much smarter, safer way for you to go. If you got any questions or would like to see the complete spreadsheets on these examples, please contact us at the number or email on the screen. Also, if you feel that this makes sense and you'd like to look deeper into it, then you know what, it's time for us to do a mortgage planning session with you to see if you're doing the smartest things with your money in your house. So just call us or email us at the number on the screen, and we'll get that scheduled. And please, we're trying to get this information out to as many people as we can. Please feel free to share this link to this video with your friends, your family, your coworkers. You know, this is information that everybody should know. So have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.